Welcome back to the manor. Julian McBain here, and we are hunting Kafaz again. St. Patrick's Day event is going on Monria. I have opted out this year, not entirely because I had planned to opt out this year, but because, as it happens, when you don't plan ahead for it and set aside the weekend, you don't always have the time to travel there. If you have the opportunity before the end of the day, I strongly recommend that you jet over to Monria and enjoy what's up to the St. Patrick's Day event. I had really hoped to participate in the parade, but unfortunately, real life got in the way. And St. Patrick's Day on Monria is one of my favorite Entropia universe events. I need to make sure I get over there next year. I just hadn't planned on it being this weekend, and that was my own fault. I had actually expected to be, what the hell? To be busy this weekend, and that ended up not panning out quite the way I'd expected, although yesterday had gone by very, very quickly. Far more quickly than expected, despite the fact that I wasn't nearly as busy as I expected. And I don't exactly know what happened, but that's such is life. And can I say, just for the record, that daylight savings time, we need to, like, get rid of that shit. Why do I need to lose an hour of sleep? Actually, I didn't lose an hour of sleep today. It will be tomorrow. But, I mean, it's kind of good. Maybe we should just stick to the daylight savings time schedule as opposed to going back to standard, but I honestly don't know which one would be better. You know, it's where do you want the daylight to be? And for for the summer, the daylight stays more in the evening, and so you're able to be up longer later. It's not quite as bright all the time, or it's not quite so dark so early. But on the same note, I'm someone who wakes up more readily in daylight. And it just felt weird. My alarm went off at 6:30 this morning. I ended up turning it off because I wasn't thinking. It was dark. I'm like, no, it can't be 6:30. Click. That really can't happen tomorrow. So I got up at the same time this morning as I have for the last week and a half, but the clock went red an hour later. So that's fun. Oh, why do humans do dumb things? That's all I need to know. Why do humans do dumb things? It's a really simple question. No one has an answer for it. So yeah. However, my family did do our St. Patrick's Day meal yesterday, even though we weren't really thinking about it. We had shepherd's pie, which is one of my favorite meals. Considering my Irish heritage, it's not a surprise, although maybe it's a bit stereotypical. For the first time, we actually made it a bit closer to what the original was. Now, like most Americans, we use hamburger and corn and potato for our shepherd's pie. But what we had done is in the past, we just put, cooked hamburger down. And I was like, no, this isn't the way it's supposed to be. There's supposed to be like a gravy, because there's an Irish pub in Bismarck, North Dakota that I used to go to semi-regularly, right? And I don't go out to drink. If I'm going to a place, it's to eat the food. I'm one of the few people who used to go to a bar that's local to me for the hot wings. Like, no shit. I might have like a drink, but I went there for the goddamn hot wings. And no, it wasn't Hooters. We don't have a Hooters within 100 miles of me, I'm pretty sure. But what they would do is this pub, it was called Blarney Stone, Bismarck, North Dakota. If you're ever in Bismarck, North Dakota, go to Blarney Stone. Become a member. It's like $20 for life. You get discounts on food on certain days and discounts on drinks on certain days. Well worth it. I more than in the 7 years I lived in Bismarck, I more than got my $20 back in discounts. I mean, it's really easy to get your discounts back in a year, depending on how often or your membership fee back in a year, depending on how many times you go out in a year. And what they would do is they take They had a Guinness Irish stew recipe, which was one of their menu items, which was fantastic on its own. Because it's a beef stew with Guinness as the base for the broth. It's just amazing. Just amazing. So what they do is they take a literal cauldron, roughly the size of a large soup bowl. So cast iron cauldron, handle and all. You think they were singing Double Double Toil and Trouble, but really, really tiny. And they'd put in some of the Guinness Irish stew at the bottom. Fill it about halfway, I think. And then they take a huge scoop of mashed potatoes and put it on top. Top that fucker with cheese and throw it in the oven. And then once it was all nice and cooked up and the cheese was all nice and melted, they serve that thing along with a rustic, I want to say it was an oatmeal bread roll, but it might have also been rye. It was really, really yummy. Just rustic roll. There were rolled oats on top of it, so I'm kind of leaning toward it was like an oatmeal bread. And they'd serve it. And if you're a member, you can get this 22-ounce Killian's red beer to go with it, because nothing washes down a good shepherd's pie like a Killian's. And that was it. And that's all you would need. Like, that would fill you. Because that was the size of the portion. But this was a true pub. It wasn't a bar that kind of serves food and pretends it's a pub. No, this was a true public house. They served good meals. And they were even open for breakfast on Saturday and Sunday, which they actually had to get what's the term? I think they call it an easement, but it's not an easement. They had to get permission to sell alcohol on Sundays because North Dakota has blue laws. And I don't know what rules they got around or whatever they had to do. I know they were one of the ones pushing for it, because as the blue laws got relaxed, they were like, boom, right on top of it. Because they sell a breakfast shot. And if I remember correctly, the breakfast shot is Jameson in orange juice, of all things, with the sausage chaser. So you literally down the orange juice, which has alcohol in it. And I don't know if it's an actual screwdriver with vodka or if it's got Jameson. I want to say it's got Jameson because it's an Irish pub. Everything's got Jameson, right? So you down the orange juice and you eat the sausage. I'm not someone who does breakfast shots because I'm not someone who generally day drinks. But I kind of thought that was nifty. But yeah, no, so we took the hamburg, and my mother actually made the meal. But she took the hamburg and she fried it up the way you'd normally do it, American style. And then we used Guinness to make a gravy. So you took the meat and you don't really drain it. And you throw in about half a bottle of Guinness and 2 or 3 tablespoons of flour to thicken it. And you let that kind of all, like, synthesize together. That wasn't the word I was looking for, but it's a good word. You synthesize that all together. And you layer that in the bottom of the pan. And then you add your vegetables, which, for whatever reason, my family just uses corn. I know that in a proper shepherd's pie, there's all kinds of shit in there. There's corn, there's carrots, there's beans, there's just, I mean, honestly, a true shepherd's pie was whatever was there. And then you layer the potatoes over it. And we use we generally use a cast iron pan. This time she used a deeper pan that wasn't cast iron, which is unusual, but not bad. And throw it in the oven to bake and then pull it out, and there you go. Lesson learned, when using a gravy in the hamburger or in the meat, which is traditional, reduce the amount of liquid a little bit and don't use cream corn. Because that's what my family does. It's 2 cans of cream corn and a can of whole kernel. That's how we make our shepherd's pie. We're like the 4th generation to do that. And I think the only ones who made it any different were my great-great-grandparents, who my great great grandmother actually came from Dublin. Like no joke, she was born in Dublin, as far as we can tell. No, I'm sorry. She got on the boat in Dublin. I believe she was born in Northern Ireland, so I don't know. That was pre-Troubles, so I don't know how that all works. Ireland might have still actually been part of the Empire back then. When did Ireland get its independence? Let's look that up. I'm very curious. It's been a while since I used to know this by heart, but you know. The Republic of Ireland. Ba-da-da-da. 1922. So yeah, it would be around that time. '30s, yeah. Because my great grandmother, let's see, my great grandfather served in World War II when he was, I think, 19. So he was in Africa. So call it 1940. Subtract 20 years for the sake of it. It's 1920. Ireland got its freedom in 22, and my great great grandmother moved to America in the early 20s. So, yeah, that would be accurate. That would be accurate. That makes sense now. I always wondered about that, and this just gave me the impetus to look it up. Because why would I have to, right? As far as I'm concerned, Ireland and Northern Ireland have always been separate, but they haven't. It's been barely 100 years. And people in Northern Ireland are Irish citizens, and had my family followed through with certain rules, I think all the way down to my mother, we could be Irish citizens. I don't think I would be eligible in any case because I'm too far descended from a natural born Irish citizen. Although maybe Irish law regarding citizenship is really interesting. It's kind of weird because as long as your forebears all register for Irish citizenship, it appears like they don't care where you are born or live. As long as your parents are Irish citizens, you can register for Irish citizenship. And I know I've got that imprecisely. And if I've got someone from Ireland that watches this, please correct me if you know better than I do, because it was always an interesting bit of Irish law that I found when I was looking up the country. But from what I understand, and I know I'm imprecise, and I think there's a generational limit. I think it's 3 or 4 generations down. As long as your parents are citizens, you can register for citizenship. Which I always found very interesting. So, and all this, despite the fact that my family are Ulster Scots, so we're technically from Northern Ireland originally. So yeah, talking about Ireland on the week of St. Paddy's Day, as Monria celebrates their big St. Patrick's Day parade. Of all holidays for a Cthulhu-based moon to celebrate, I haven't quite figured that out yet. It's kind of interesting, and they don't celebrate it on Toulan. Like, I kind of expected to see all kinds of shit here on Toulan. Not a damn thing. There's no parade, there's no party. Which, okay, you can only have the parade really on one place. You know, Ant and DME can only be in one place at a time. They can't be on both planets. That would be funny if they had, like, official avatars on both planets. So they're like dual keyboarding so they can lead the parade in both at the same time, which would make both parades smaller, of course, but funny. Because I guarantee they get distracted and one of them goes spinning off in some random ass direction, and all the mobs are like, "God, dude, your parade's over there." uh, what's Bonnie saying? Happy Mother's Day. Okay, I don't know why she'd be saying Happy Mother's Day. It's not Mother's Day, is it? It shouldn't be. It better not be. Oh no, that's May 9th. Okay, we're good. I was about to panic there. Bonnie, don't do that to me. Stop. Oh boy. Hopefully that'll give them a chuckle. Great. But just distracted me. I was totally on a roll, totally lost my train of thought because I thought I saw Mother's Day and I'm like, shit, there's no way I missed it. Oh, that, you know what? That's fair. Avon just said that's Mother's Day may occur on different days in different countries, and that's totally fair. So it might be Mother's Day in Britain, in the UK. That's entirely possible. That doesn't mean it didn't make me panic. I thought I was gonna have a heart attack. Especially since like I'm recording this on Sunday morning, which doesn't happen very often. I'm recording it late, which doesn't happen very often anymore. I'm recording it later than I would have if I had to record it on a Sunday morning because I didn't get up when I normally would have. Well, I did get up when I normally would have, except the clock's an hour later. Fuck. The other thing is so yesterday I discovered something. I discovered a piece of my childhood. And I called and I talked to my old man. I'm like, you'll never believe what's come out. They put Command and Conquer and Command and Conquer the original Red Alert remastered for like $20. And so yesterday you had 3 generations of my family, myself, my father, and my son, because my dad and I used to play this all the time. We couldn't play against each other because networks back in the early aughts, we're talking like, well, the late 90s and early aughts, so like 98, 99, everything was on dial-up for the most part, and setting up a LAN required an engineering degree. It didn't actually require an engineering degree, but it required an engineering degree. So we were never able to play each other. I had played 1 or 2 online games, but when you have dial-up internet, it just doesn't work very well. It just doesn't. And so last night you had 3 generations of my family having a LAN party playing Command and Conquer Red Alert against each other, which was freaking awesome. And so like we're all there, we're all playing, and by the time we're done, it's like 10 o'clock. And my son showers just before bed, so and he goes to bed at 10. I'm like, shit, it's 9:45 and my son has not gotten in the shower yet. So I'm like, as soon as your grandfather's done, go take your shower. But yeah, we played 2 games and it was over. It was like 2 hours of gameplay for the 3 of us. And my son was bummed because he built nuclear silos, which you can do in Command and Conquer. And I turned off super weapons, not realizing it would disable that particular weapon. It's the only weapon in the game that's a super weapon. Because I figured it would just remove the building. Except demo trucks, which are... in the game, you can build trucks, which look like Deuce in a house. They got the cloth back. They have a little radioactive symbol on the side. And they're nuclear bombs in a truck, and you can just drive them into things and they go boom, right? called demo trucks. You need a nuclear silo to build the demo trucks. It's a prereq building. So they keep the building in. But for whatever reason, while the missile is classified as a super weapon, even though in this game nuclear weapons are horrendously underpowered, like they destroy a 16, for lack of a better term, square, but it's the size of an infantry person in this game, which is tiny. Tiny, tiny, tiny. It's this tiny ass little box that a nuclear weapon destroys in this game. It's not like in Red Alert 2 where it actually did like what you'd expect from a tactical nuclear weapon to do. So I know we're supposed to play later today. I'm going to make sure super weapons are in super weapons are available so my son can use them, because he got really frustrated that he couldn't use them. I won both games, though the second one was a real freaking slog, because what I did was I made a mistake. I found myself between my father and son. There's an allegory there, I'm sure, on the map, so I got really nervous. So I'm building defenses up. I'm like, you know what? I'll just hit them both at the same time. I'll try to just clean them both out at the same time and just have done with it. So my son was playing a Soviet group, and my father was playing an Allied group. I was playing an Allied group, so I sent my heavier forces after my son, because the Soviets in Red Alert 1 have super heavy equipment versus the Allies, even though they're like 3 times as expensive. And I sent lighter equipment after my father. Well, my father tends to build defenses like the Iron Warriors in Warhammer 40k. So by splitting my forces, I actually gave myself a harder time than I would have if I had just concentrated on one first. And lesson learned, don't split your forces. Concentration of force in any RTS is important. But then, so the old man got wise. He starts laying mines, right? He starts laying mines. And I realize he's laying mines. So I build some cheap Jeeps. And I have all my tanks. And I've got like 5 Jeeps, knowing they're and the Jeeps are sacrificial, right? They're to hit the mines. So I throw the Jeeps out there. And the Jeeps plow through the minefield and blow up the mines. And in the hole they create in the minefield, stream all of my tanks. And I can hear my old man going, son of a bitch. As my tanks stream through the hole my Jeeps had made in his minefield. Which was very gratifying, I must say. But no, that was a slog, because he built defenses like they're going out of style. Like, between every building there are turrets with tank cannons on them. It's just a slog. And then he built all kinds of anti-tank troops, and he put light tanks and medium tanks in there, which is what you're supposed to do, right? Now in CNC, you can run over infantry with tanks, so what I would do is I just take my tanks and roll past the infantry. I'd click past the infantry, and the tanks would just roll over the people. I can hear him going, damn it, I forgot about that. But unfortunately, that also overextended the forces so that they ended up in range of all of the defenses. So it was kind of a mixed bag. It's like, what do you want to do? Do you want to die to the infantry or all the defenses you end up hitting after you roll over the infantry? But rolling over the infantry cost him more money, so ultimately that's what I would have done regardless. It's like, what can cost him the most resources? And that game is really a game where the key strategy is you've got a couple of options. You can do kind of a grunt rush like you do in Warcraft, like the original Warcraft, not World of Warcraft, where you just send troops as soon as they're made, or you can send groups. Depending on your opponent would depend on how that works. I know a lot of players use a lot of heavy air support, which in Red Alert 1 doesn't really work if you're playing allies because you don't have a whole lot of aircraft. Conversely, the Soviets have a lot of aircraft in Red Alert 1, but not in Red Alert 2. They kind of flipped sides, which I never quite understood how that ended up working out, but it's how it worked. But I know that in future games, I'm going to have to change up my strategy. And I'm already thinking about it because I know we're going to end up playing again tonight. Already thinking about how to overcome whatever counter tactics those two come up with. And that's one of the fun things about the game is that you have to constantly shift. If you're playing humans, you have to shift how you play as you... Yeah, it's Mother's Day in the UK and Ireland. As you play people over and over because they're going to get used to your tactics. So like yesterday I basically used blitzkrieg tactics. And in the first game it worked really, really well. And in the second game it worked not so well. Well, it worked for one of my opponents, not for the other one. So today I'll have to change it up. Maybe I'll do more artillery barrage. Maybe I'll change to playing a Soviet faction so I can take advantage of their different equipment types. Maybe I'll go heavy air support and just hit things with helicopters. Who knows? So those are all the fun things about that. So yeah, fun times. Hopefully this doesn't end up on the block too late. Everyone's happy St. Patrick's Day. If you're in the UK, happy Mother's Day, apparently. And as always, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe down below. We are on the road to 13 million subscribers, one subscription at a time, so make sure you subscribe. And as always, I appreciate your support. We'll see you in the next one.